Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this special broadcast, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Gabriel Carter and Mr. Sam Jackson. Both will be discussing the Cummings presidential run, where both Mr. Jackson and Mr. Gabriel Carter have different perspectives when it comes to Mr. Alexander Cummings. You may recall Mr. Jackson recently endorsed the candidacy or the 2023 re-election of President George Weah, and since then he has taken the fight to the opposition bloc. This time, he has run into a brick wall, Mr. Gabriel Carter, and we're going to discuss tonight what Mr. Jackson thinks about the Cummings campaign and what is Mr. Carter's response. I want to invite you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Let me start with you, Mr. Jackson. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Both of you are regulars here on Focus on Liberia. I'm happy to have you.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Dennis. Well, first of all, I think we need to have some clarification on the rules of engagement for this discussion. The reason for that is very simple. When you send me a text, and I don't want to read your text to the public, but your text didn't say we're going to be focusing specifically on the Cummings campaign, the run for the presidency. But if you want to make it a narrow focus like that, Gabriel can take that narrow focus, but I would take the balcony view. He can take the narrow focus of the Cummings campaign because he's a supporter, and I don't want to be seen as an adversary to the Cummings campaign. I'm a Liberian. I believe in democracy, and I believe that all views should be aired out. And I believe that opinions like mine, no matter how outlandish you think they are, I think we should express it when they're not hurtful to people. So that's my position.
Thank you. And we'll come for clarity, but Gabriel, let me welcome you to Focus on Liberia. You are a regular here, normally featured on our FOL Marketplace, where we talk business, finance, and economics. This time, we're talking some politics. In fact, business, finance, and economics, that's politics. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Dennis, thank you. Mr. Jackson, nice having you on. And I agree. I don't want this to be narrow in as much that I think you've it's supposed to be, but if you want to expand to look at everything holistically, we can do that. I think I'm comfortable with that. So let's leave it as you want it to be.
But not as I wanted to be, how I was told it was going to be, So okay. And I came prepared. I came prepared for that angle, I didn't come prepared for a narrow focus on the Cummings campaign.
Yeah. So let's go throughout.
Let's establish the facts. Let's establish the ground rules. So, Mr. Jackson, please go ahead and repeat what you say you want the focus to be.
But basically, I want us to take a look at the run for the presidency and the requirements to build in. The run for the presidency and the requirements by the political establishment, opposition, the governing party to build institutions, have a fertile field for debate, and to look at some of the burning issues in the country that need to be resolved by the political debate. Because what you don't want is to just be talking for the sake of talking. What are we trying to do? We're all trying to have a better country. And what does a better country mean? It means socioeconomic development for our people and all of the requirements for socioeconomic development, governance, bringing people with competence and all of that into the government, and also setting up policy prescriptions that can overcome our development challenges. So those are the issues that I'm interested in.
And you are not interested in discussing Mr. Cummings' run because you have written a lot.
No, I can discuss that. Briefly. I don't want people to think that I'm preoccupied with Mr. Alexander Cummings because
It is not about preoccupation. You have written a lot. You have said a lot, and we've seen what you've said, what you've stated about his.
And I'm willing to defend those. I can defend those. If you want me to defend them, I can defend them.
So let's do it. So generally, by now we have people running for the presidency come 2023, of which Mr. Weah, Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Boakai, we know they will be running. So that's the kind of focus, and based on what you have written so far, especially since your endorsement of the Weah re-election. So let's talk about those, but let me give you a chance. So let's start with the opening statements about the presidential campaign 2023 and why you think really want to look at the candidates that we think are running. And Mr. Cummings is at the top of it. And based on what you have written so far, we want to discuss that.
Okay, great. I mean, so can you basically tell me what specifically you want to discuss? Something that I said. If you have
we are
down.
discussing the run for the presidency by Mr. Cummings, and since you support President Weah, we also want to bring into focus President Weah's run. You have said that
Okay,
and let's pair them.
Okay, great. First of all, let it be very clear that I have a great amount of respect for Mr. Cummings. I think he's done extremely well for himself, and I also think his philanthropic thrust into the country have been extremely welcome and good and timely. I think he's a patriot. I think he's a nationalist. I think he means well for the country. But I have some issues that concerning his run. Mr. Cummings has not been involved, as far as I know, and maybe Gabriel can correct me, in terms of being an advocate for social cohesion, being an advocate for social and economic justice. I haven't seen him being an advocate for Liberian economic empowerment. I never seen that in his background. What I see is a great corporate career. I see a very successful man in terms of the corporate America. But as a Liberian politician, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, yes, he has great potential and he could probably make a good president, but he's making a lot of mistakes along the way because he's a political neophyte. And let me tell you some of the mistakes he's making. I try to engage Mr. Cummings for the last year, and I didn't reach out to him. Okay, he had a conduit reach out to me. So let's just be very clear about that. Okay, and it's a conduit I respect, conduit and I grew up with, and I didn't make any commitments to Mr. Cummings. All I said to him was, look, let's engage each other and see if we're good for one another. You know, if it would be a good thing for us to even be aligned with each other, because I'm a very controversial person. You know, I'm very clear about that. I got very controversial views. I don't know how to shut up. So let's have this conversation. So the first thing I did, I sent him a list of questions, which is about 10 questions. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? And of course, I came back with a very general thing. So I said, look, this is the area I think you should focus on. The economy is the most important part of any country, the private sector development. And social economic outcomes out of there would demonstrate that the country is moving forward. So let's see if you can come up with an economic development plan that is marketable, that makes a lot of sense, and something that people can identify you with. You say, yes, we'll do that. And then he kept putting me off. Next month, 2 months later, you know. So and then after a while, I started feeling some discomfort in terms of when I do the little bit of investigation in terms of how his organization is set up. Okay, I see a lot of brilliant young people around him, and I see a lot of possibilities, but I don't see the institutions. For example, one of the things, if I had the kind of money Mr. Cummings had, that I would have done before even thinking about running for power in the country, yes, set up a foundation, but I will also see if I can do like something like the Bob Johnson Fund to fund economic development activities. For example, say a rice mill, Central Liberia, or sugar mill in the Southeast, youth economic unemployment and all of that. Okay. So, but he's doing extremely well with the Cummings Foundation in terms of the students and all of that. Then the other thing I would do is I would set up a think tank that would be very analytic, you know, analytical, and to study why Liberia is where it is, with under the current circumstances and what we can do. Okay, And you saw the lack of preparedness of Mr. Cummings when he came on the other day when he was asked about the COVID-19 and what he would do. He gave you some broad strokes, but his core message was personal responsibility is how we fight this disease. Washing of hands and putting on gloves, okay? And observing social distancing. Very good. But I would have thought if he's spoken to some healthcare professionals, there will be some things in terms of a real response that included to what we do with health, with our frontline workers,
Mr.
what
Jackson,
we do about logistics.
You're
giving you the
long-winded. You're not like you're all
Mr.
over the place.
Jackson,
I don't want to cut you off,
hold
but you're
on,
long-winded. You're
Gabriel.
all over the place.
Hold on, Mr. Carter. Mr. Jackson, you made a first point, so I want Carter. So we'll take it piece by piece. Your first point here
but
is.
Why are you calling me long-winded? I mean, that's not courteous to call somebody long-winded.
Should I remind you everything you talked about and how they're all over the place? Or should Dennis
hold on, Mr. Carter. Carter. Let's take it step by step. Mr. Jackson gave his opening statement calling Mr. Cummings a political neophyte, and he said why. So I will give you a chance to respond and then make your opening statement as well.
So again, Mr. Jackson, nice having you here. Dennis, thank you for having me on the show. As you and I both know, and everybody else out there know that, Mr. Jackson here has been, a very critical person of the current administration, the We administration. You know that he's came on the show, he's went on different shows to voice that opinion, right? Few months ago, or probably a month ago or less, he came back and now saying he's endorsing the current administration. The reasons, he wants continuity, right? Another reason is that there's no cohesion within the CPP, right? The third one, which I think he alluded to here, is that he reached out to the current administration or the CPP bloc and they put him off. Now, Mr. Jackson has an econ and finance background. I do have an economics and finance background, right? We believe in numbers. We know numbers work, right? Even though they can be manipulated to make them work. If you and I both know the current situation in Liberia, but yet still, contrary to those, and we know to say that the country is headed for like a bottomland pit will be even an understatement, right? To know all of those figures, you can run regression or economic model, whatever you want to run, you can run those and you will see that the data is there to prove it, right? If you don't believe in numbers too, just take yourself, go right to Liberia, talk to Liberians, you will see that. To know that and still do a 180 turn to go support this administration was one thing I don't agree with. I think this is why we think he's actually is all about his self-interest, right? And the basic notion to think that because you reach out to a candidate and they put you off, to just feel that they don't have anything planned and call somebody a neophyte, it's a flawed logic. You and I both know that it's a flawed logic, right? Yes, the ANC is building an institution. Because you don't know that, because you're not within, or because they're not working with you, so you would discredit that. You don't know that, right? So I don't want to be long-winded and say, and go off everything you've listed here. You have issues with his some of the economics thing that you want him to build a think tank, right? Why should he build a think tank as a requirement to run for president, right? Is that even a requirement? That's not even a requirement. What he's even doing with the Cummings African Foundation is more than any candidate right now in our country, right? And these, I would like to lay on that, but those are the fundamental reason why I think, whenever you make these posts and on Facebook that, whether the ANC or the CPP bloc isn't doing what they're supposed to do or don't know what they're doing, this is why you get this kind of rebuttal that you get. Because from a fundamental standpoint, from a basic logic and reasoning standpoint, those do not make sense. Whether you look at it from a numerical standpoint or just basic, human to human interaction, they don't make sense.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, will Mr. Cummings make a good president?
He could. It's possible. Now, let me just get back to what my young colleague was saying about me calling Mr. Cummings a political neophyte. is Mr. Cummings not a political neophyte? Is Mr. Cummings not just in an advanced age? His first foray into Liberian politics at the highest pinnacle, the presidency. What other leadership position has Mr. Cummings held? Political position in his college in Liberia? What organizations in terms of political or civil society groups that he belonged to? What other positions has he had in the Liberian government, or what has he done in terms of as a corporate leader? What causes did he advance when he was working for Coca-Cola, Liberian Economic Empowerment? So, and then he comes and he tries to set up a political party, and you saw he fell flat in the last election. You saw where he came, okay? So the thing is, he's part of a coalition this time, and it's a coalition seems to be a very strong coalition, but that coalition is based upon our ancient animosities and recent hurts. And let me explain that. Ancient animosities are people who the pre-1980 oligarchy who believe they have a right to political power in Liberia. The people who financed the 1985 Congo invasion and the people who financed the 1989 insurrection, with supporting Charles Taylor, attempts of financing Charles Taylor. Then you come up to the other issue, the people were hurt, the people within the Unity Party who've been dislodged from power because Mr. Boyka lost that election. These are people who had 12 years, ran the country, ran it to the ground, did not prepare to build a resilient healthcare system. They did not expand economic output. They relied upon the presence of the UN troops in Liberia for economic development. So the aggregate demand from that spurred the automaticity of economic growth. And since Omni left and since Ebola set in, Liberia hasn't had any economic growth, and especially within the last 12 years. So those are the issues that I'm dealing with, and I had to make a choice between two polar opposites. Do I go with a change, disruptive in terms of obstructing the second term of WIA, or do I go to try to reform the current dispensation as bad as it is? So since I saw a level of lack of preparedness on the other side, it was easy for me to make the decision to go with Mr. WIA and try to help him to recalibrate and to make some reforms to address the transgressions that I had outlined so vehemently earlier.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Carter, respond, then I'm going to hit a reset button, so we'll start from somewhere. Go ahead.
This notion that, the only reason that folks in the CPP are, because, they're hurt from the previous administration, or they feel entitled to, power from, their, time being in power, it's to only allocate that for the reason that people want change in Liberia. I think is a flaw logic to. You are telling me since President Weah took office, it's been 3 years, right? I don't even want to go over the Eton deal, the $25 million mop-up, right? The airplane, Liberian airline that's supposed to come up, right? All of those things has failed, and these are just the basic. Those are just the minimum that I'm listing, right? He has failed the Liberian people continually, and people are seeing that and saying this guy is not even shouldn't have been even close to the Liberian presidency. The reason why he got elected is, again, all of this popularity contest thing, because he played football. He was popular during his playing time. There is nothing he has offered the Liberian people. No, show me one economic plan, one project that he has taken on since he got elected, right? Everyone else is seeing that. You yourself have seen that, right? This is why people are going towards ANC and know the credibility that Mr. Cummings have. They've seen it. Yes, he has a corporate background, right? And I've talked about this on another show yesterday. This whole thing that Cummings doesn't have a public public experience, public sector experience, public sector experience is a fallacy, right? I keep referring people back to this book, The African Business Revolution. Go there and see what the profile about him in that book, how he was able to navigate different African country political landscape to grow Coca-Cola on that continent, right? How he was able, it's the same bureaucracy that you think he will be facing in Liberia are the same bureaucracy he would navigate, whether in South Africa working with the current president of South Africa, right? He gave him his first franchise in South Africa, whether it's East Africa or even West Africa in Nigeria, to expand the Coca-Cola brand. You don't just go work with businesses. You have to deal with government as well. Whether they think that the product you're bringing into that country, whether you should be selling them, right? If he was able to deal with that, that's the same bureaucracy that we have in Liberia. In any government you will face in Liberia. So he has a combination of the two, the corporate sector background and the ability to navigate those bureaucratic governments, right? So this whole notion that you and other folks are putting out there that, he doesn't have that background. I will refer you to that book. Go read it. It's called The African Business Revolution. It was written by I forgot their name, from McKinsey, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So that's the argument that I want to put aside. People are seeing that, and they know that this government hasn't done anything. They are seeing the opportunity here that Alex can offer to Liberia, and not just a sector of Liberia or group of people, but entire Liberia in its entirety. So that's the reason why people are going towards it, and not because they feel hurt from not being in politics.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. Mr. Samuel Jackson and Mr. Gabriel Carter are my guests. Let's start this way. We are talking about 2023 presidency. For 2023, what do we look for in a president? And let's see whether Cummings has it or Weah has it. So let me start with you again, Mr. Jackson. What are you looking for someone to be president of Liberia 2023?
Yeah, okay, but first of all, my friend Gabriel said he's an econ guy, he's a numbers guy, and he keeps making some very wild statements like people are moving towards Cummings. I'm a member of the American Association of Public Opinion Research, and we do research, qualitative and quantitative research. We do opinion polls. So are you telling me that your internal polls are telling you, and you guys have done some internal polls, you can put your hands up and say that, yes, we have done some internal polls, and our internal polls do demonstrate that we have a movement of people toward us? Do you have those polls results?
We'll come to that. I want us to address
No. He has to answer that question.
When he answers, he will have to make a statement. Then you want to...
Exactly. If you want me to answer that, we'll make a statement.
Yeah, but I'll prefer for him to answer. I will give him my time so he can answer that.
Right. So I don't want us to deal with statistics yet because we don't see that quite often in Liberia.
Apparently they don't. Apparently he doesn't.
Yeah, so I don't want us to go there yet. Okay. So let's talk about
So you just made a wild accusation without any empirical evidence that there's a movement to Mr. Cummings. You don't have the empirical evidence. There's no basis in fact. You said that, and that was. Do you have
any empirical data on the people supporting George Weah come the 2023?
Right, and that's why I don't want to.
Mr. Weah is president of the Republic of Liberia.
That's your statement. Is that the data that they have? That's the data you're talking about?
Yeah, that is the historical data. Yes,
Mr. Jackson.
Come on, Mr. Jackson. I respect you a lot. I don't like this trivia.
The historical data on Cummings is that he lost the last election.
And you're going to
data, Mr. Cummings. And you were seeing that.
Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
You're seeing people are moving toward Mr. Cummings, and I'm asking you if you have some internal data to prove that you cannot answer.
You are basing that on historical data as somebody who's.
No, I'm asking you if you have the data, and you don't have the data. So
you're basing the current political landscape on historical data for 2017.
Okay, hold on, guys. Are you prepared to answer the question about what we're looking for in a president come 2023? Let's start from that basis and see, because you are squaring Mr. Cummings against Mr. Weah for 2023. So let's see what we're looking for here. I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. First of all, I think it's important for us to understand that I don't believe that Joe Weah walks on water. That's just be very clear about that. And all of the very hard charging criticisms I made in the last 18 to 24 months are just as valid as the word when I made them. So I don't make any excuses for those.
Do you stand by them?
Of course, I stand by them.
Okay.
Yeah, I stand by them. Now, what has changed is in behavior. My behavior to what Mr. Weah is doing is totally catalyzed by what I see on the other side, on the polar opposite.
Mr. Jackson, you're still not answering my question.
But I'm
Let him
coming
expand
now.
on that behavior change that he's
Right,
talking
because
about.
we'll come to that
Whether it's
behavior.
from a policy standpoint or
We'll come
economic
to that behavior,
standpoint.
why you change and why you endorsing Weah now. I want to see what is it that you're looking for in the president that Cummings doesn't have and that Weah has. Let's begin from there.
First of all, I think Mr. Cummings is inarticulate. Okay, he doesn't speak with a lot of passion. He doesn't have any grassroots support that I can discern. Okay, and I see him with very limited ties to the country. That's how I see him. And I could be wrong. Maybe he's building up a team. Maybe he's building up that, and empirical evidence will show that. But what I want to see is a president that we all, the majority, vote for, that we all respect, and we give him a mandate. And then, of course, the president who has the ability to put together a team. And I keep saying to you, I think Cummings is a great individual. I think he might be able to make a great president. But the hurdles before him that he has to overcome, which will be like fire burning him to make him a truly outstanding president, he still has to go through those ropes. And Mr. Weah has gone through those ropes in terms of several runs for the presidency. Mr. Weah has run a political organization for 12 years, the CDC. Mr. Weah, like Mr. Cummings, had great, what should I say, achievements in his field of endeavor.
What?
He's done extremely well. Yes, he was a great football player. He was the world's best.
You have your turn. You have your turn, Mr. Carter.
So he and Mr. Cummings have done extremely well in the private sector for themselves. Okay. What Mr. Weah has done and Mr. Cummings hasn't done is to build a strong grassroots organization. And Mr. Cummings seems to be having some difficulties in putting the team together to be able to, expand his reach deep down into the population of the country.
Thank you,
okay.
Mr. Carter. You can respond and tell me also what is it that you're looking for in a president that Mr. Cummings has, and probably President Weah doesn't.
So for Liberia is a very unique country. You and I both, especially at this stage in the country's history, right? For a person coming to assume power in our country, I want them to have a good experience of how to build institutions, right? Which Mr. Cummings has. Coca-Cola is not just some company that is in one country. It's a global brand, and he is proving that in Africa. So I will want somebody who understands economics from the basic, whether even if it's how much somebody is paying for a price, a bottle of water, whether charging that price in that very county is specific enough for the people in our country, whether in our county they can afford it. Somebody who understands basic detail to that level, right? Somebody who is very passionate, right? His passion, he's proven, just Mr. Jackson, just like you and I, right? He could have stayed in America and gone about his business, right? But instead, he established the Cummings African Foundation, right? The Cummings Foundation in Liberia, right? He could have done that in any other African country, right? That's his passion. That there is a need here, and the foundation being in that, he has a STEM education system in there. If that doesn't tell you about somebody caring about his country and the people and the education and how he wants them to achieve greatness, compared to putting out students that can compete on a global level, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else can paint a better picture, right?
Okay,
That's one. So
let
that's
me tell you what can paint a
no,
better picture
wait,
for
wait,
me.
wait. Let me land. Let me land.
Let me
You
finish.
ended. I didn't interrupt you, right? That's passion. You talked about he's inarticulate. I think what we're used to in that country, and not just in Liberia and in Africa as a whole, we're used to this kind of machoism kind of personality that is overbearing. That when you're speaking, you should be, this kind of that is long outdated, my friend. It is long outdated. It is long outdated. That's whole machoism that you got to speak with authority that people should fear you. That is not power that millennials are used for. That is not the power the kind of the young generation needs. You want somebody who speak that people. I can come here and you and I can use all kinds of economic lingo. Nobody will understand that, but a few very select people. He's speaking to the people's level that they will understand it and be able to comprehend what they're saying. You and I both know the education level of Liberians in Liberia. We cannot just talk to them with lingo that they don't understand. So that's how he speaks to that level. If he was communicating with you, I bet he will be speaking to your level. So that whole lingo thing that he's inarticulate and speaking because he's not using these big words, that is long outdated. You
Okay.
also mentioned that Weah has accomplished a lot. He's done a lot by playing football. Weah made $85 million over his playing career. Show me one business that he's owned, developed from that. Show me houses that he's built, or business that he was running prior to transitioning to government. If he didn't become a senator, he would have been broke. He was broke before even becoming a senator, right? You cannot compare the two. To note, and it kind of irks me that you and I both know this thing, but because you pivot towards somebody and they don't gravitate towards you, and now all of a sudden you shun out that person because they didn't pay you no attention, and now come to say you're derailing the person, the group, or because they don't pay no attention to you. That is a layman thinking. That is the caveman can do better than that. And I think you're smart.
Dennis,
you're way smarter than that.
Give this man.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Jackson, please explain a little bit more when you say Cummings is inarticulate. What are you referring to? And if we are articulate,
Weah can be articulate based upon the idioms and the circumstances, and of course, Mr. Weah is not as educated as Mr. Cummings, and Weah does not have to meet the same standards as Mr. Cummings when it comes to articulation and passion.
Both have master degree, right? Both of them have master degree.
But you and I know the difference. Okay, so let's not kid ourselves about that. Okay, let's not kid ourselves about that.
There's education and then there's degree.
Okay, so let's not kid ourselves about that. Okay, when you hear Mr. Cummings speak, okay, he speaks like he has no vertebrae. Okay, I like to see more passion. I like to see more emotion. I like to see, passion and emotion comes from believing. Mr. Cummings has done extremely well for himself, and I think he can make a great president. But here is the problem. Mr. Cummings, I first noticed Mr. Cummings in terms of his philanthropy only when he was making a run for the presidency. I was in Liberia in 1992, and I was there 1997, and I was there from 2002 until 2015. The only time I heard about the Cummings Africa Foundation for Liberia, or I saw Mr. Cummings do anything for Liberia, when we started associating him with the presidency. Maybe he did things, but I don't have any record of that. So maybe Gabriel can tell us what Mr. Cummings did for Liberians during the war, what kind of foundation he had to support Liberian refugees. And I know he did some work towards DED with Kiatamba in the United States, but I want to know exactly what kind of a scalable project that he did that was visible before he started to run for the presidency.
And would those qualify someone to be president? Is that what you are saying?
That's what I'm saying. This is trivial. This guy is trivial.
It's not trivial.
Mr. Carter, Mr. Jackson.
But you see, the thing is, like, if I ask you a question and you don't have an answer for it, and then you say it's trivial.
I have an answer for that. The African Foundation.
But then give me an. Why are you calling my question?
Let me answer. Dennis, let me answer your question. The Cummings African Foundation has been there. It's been in Liberia, right? Just because you became to become aware of it, because when he started running for, getting interested in politics, that doesn't mean it wasn't doing things that you weren't aware of. Just
Okay,
if you're
just
not
name
aware of,
name some of them. Name some of the
please.
things they
No,
did.
wait. I
Okay,
allow you to
okay.
speak, right?
Take 24 hours.
Just because you weren't aware of them doesn't
Just
mean they
name
weren't.
them. Just name them, Gabriel.
I
Stop being
like
Hold on,
just
Mr.
not
you.
aware.
Let me
Make me aware.
you see, that's why people don't want to debate you. That you
Go
argue
ahead,
like this, all Liberian people under the
Mr.
Palava
Carter.
hut.
Go ahead.
That's not the kind of argument I want to have. This is not
But
Palava
give
hut.
me what he did. You vacillating. Oh,
Hold on,
Let me
Mr. Jackson.
talk. Let me talk.
Go
Right?
ahead, talk, Mr. Carter.
Just because you weren't aware of them, the Cummings African Foundation has been around for as long as you, probably longer than you probably been in office, because I know you've been in almost every administration, right? Just because you weren't aware of the things that they were doing, or just because you became aware when he started becoming interested in politics, that doesn't mean they weren't doing the things that he do. Go check out the STEM program that he has there. Right, as you and I both know, the world is gravitating towards STEM, which is the science, technology, math, and the other one, right? That's the way the world is going towards, right? This is somebody who believes in developing the next generation of Liberian that are not just going to compete in Liberia, but are ready, that somebody can leave from Liberia and they compete on the next in any part of the world, right? That is something, from an educational standpoint, that's something we should be proud of, right? And in addition to that, you and I both know he just gave $150,000 of his own money. Show me another candidate, whether opposition or in the current administration, that is doing anything close to that.
Okay,
Show,
Mr. Carter.
I will wait.
okay.
Name me that.
Mr. Carter,
Okay.
hold on. All that you have stated, how do these things qualify him to be a better president?
But again,
can I just say something quickly?
Hold on, Mr. Jackson. I want him to end on that note before I bring you in.
Let me tell you how that qualifies him. Again, I think I mentioned that earlier. It shows somebody who's passionate, right? As I said earlier, he done well for himself. He says it. We and I both know it. He could have stayed in America and vacation all around. All he want, his kids are taken care of. This is somebody who saw the need of people in Liberia, right? That's the very need that he talks about. He want to change Liberia, not just for a very select group of people, but the entire country as a whole, right? This is why when people talk to him about his base, he said, I don't have a base. The entire Liberia is my base, right? The closest we've had to that, Dennis, is Tarbert, when he had, his open door policy. And Cummings is by far, in light years, the best candidate we can ever have in terms of somebody wanting to change Liberia in terms of development, right? These are the kind of things that we look for in a person. Somebody who will come in and leverage their international relationships, whether it's in the corporate America or in his personal life, to bring development into Liberia. We've had somebody who's been in power for 3 years. Not one, whether it's from Italy where he's played most of his year, not one person has left Italy and said, let me go talk to this guy that we have a relationship with, or this president, to see if I can bring any project in Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Because I don't want to, because you are not really answering. But go ahead, make your response. I have a few questions for you.
Mr. Carter could not name one project that Mr.
I just named you few. I named you the Ebola.
Hold on, Mr. Carter. Go ahead.
Can you finish? Can you give me a chance to articulate my position, Mr. Carter? Okay.
Go ahead.
You did not name anything that Mr. Cummings did that was significant before his foray into the run for the presidency. Okay, you haven't named that. Okay. Secondly, let's be very clear here. No one is debating the good character, the good name of Mr. Cummings. That goes without saying. He's a man of impeccable character. I think he'll make a great president, but he faces a minefield in the labyrinth. Let me finish. The labyrinthine politics, the caves, the nooks and the crannies.
Be specific. Please be specific.
Okay, and I'll say that, and basically you can tell by the composition, okay, of the people who support Mr. Cummings on media, they typically in the diaspora, typically highly well educated.
Such as?
Okay. I mean, such as yourself, such as Francine, such as Emmerich Benson, such as Muna Fahad, such as, so and so and so. Okay. So those are the people. Okay. Mr. Cummings, as far as I'm concerned, when I go to Monrovia, when I go to Suriname, I don't hear the name Mr. Cummings as connecting to the people where I was born. I don't see that. Maybe you see that. When I go to Zokwe to visit other members of my family, I don't see an ANC flag, even a CPP flag, or somebody representing the CPP or the ANC there, part of stakeholder groups, part of focus groups, or part of any kind of group to solve the real problems that people have. Now, and all of the parties, they all have those defects. And one of the things I was trying to accomplish this time in 2023 is put together a veritable opposition built on a foundation with institutions, with expertise, because all we have failed governments over the last 174 years. So
which you were part of.
Yes, absolutely. But
right.
Yes, of course. I mean,
Mr. Carter, you will have your turn.
I don't take responsibility. I take responsibility. But let me just educate him. Let me educate him.
No,
I think it's important. It's important to Dennis. Give me 30 seconds.
Dennis, I would like to make a comment when he's done with that. Okay, please.
Yeah, I work 11 months.
I work 11 months for Samuel Doe, and I work 1 year and 6 months for Charles Taylor. Out of my 44 years of experience, global experience. So if you want to take those 3 years and wrap the country's problems around my neck and say I'm responsible for, I mean, if you're willing to make that judgment, if you can live with your conscience, I will accept that.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, hold on. I have some questions for Mr. Jackson, and I will come to you with some questions because I don't want to.
I want to make a quick response to what he just said.
Because you are going back and forth on the same thing.
Let me make a quick response to what he said, Dennis. Quickly.
You have 1 minute, please.
Quickly. So this whole thing about grassroots, that whatever county he go to, you don't see the ANC flag or whatever connecting with the people. First of all, we're not in campaign season. You're not technically, if you start campaigning without being in campaign season, it goes against the campaign rules, right? You should know that, right? And you can chalk it and say this is Liberia, so nobody cares about that. I think running. You're laughing, but I think in as much that people do that without being in campaign season, I think playing fair by the rules is one of the things that people do that he's actually doing in terms of staying true to his integrity. So if you go to this county, you don't see memorabilia or it's ANC memorabilia, that's because we're not in campaign season. Now, wait, I'm not done yet. Because we're not in campaign season yet, right? 1, 2, in terms of connecting with grassroots, right? George Weah can go to any of those counties. That's because people will come around because of his years of playing football. That doesn't mean you're connecting with them. That doesn't mean you're doing anything for them. That doesn't mean you're bringing money to them or campaigning or doing any project in there. Allocating $100,000 per county as county development fund is a failure within itself, right? It's a failure within itself. Why you're making $2 million a year, why you only allocating $100,000 to a county, and you call that because he play football, he can go there and people get excited. Okay. You call that connecting with people. That's some of the flawed basic reasoning that you keep pushing out here that I don't agree with, and nobody else agree with that.
But no, thank you. Hold on, Mr. Jackson. I have some few questions. Mr. Jackson, hold on. I got a question for you. Okay. I got a few questions for you. Number 1, you called Mr. Cummings a political neophyte. He's just getting into the game. The first time he was there, he ran 2017. From 2017 till now, that's a lot of time. 2, you also say in your writing, all the political leaders need advisors, and you need Mr. Cummings need advisors. You just name some people around who you think are not good advisors. I don't know.
I never said they're not good advisors. I'm saying.
Let me finish. I have 2 questions for you.
No, Dennis. Let's just clarify that. I said people around Mr. Cummings are mostly people in the diaspora who are educated, and I named those people. And I said I didn't say they were incompetent. I never said that.
Okay.
So let's just get that clear.
You said okay. Yeah. Thanks for that correction. You said political leader needs advisor, and you kind of try to get to him, but he didn't really open up to you. Are you now saying that you were trying to advertise yourself to Mr. Cummings as one of those
That's
advisors?
exactly.
And he didn't accept
great.
you? Is that an issue?
Okay, great. Before I answer that question, I want you to just go to what Gabriel said. Gabriel said that this is not campaign season, but you're confusing presence, a visible presence in all the political subdivisions and projects that they can do that can act as a means of attraction as campaigning. A political candidate campaigns every day. He makes speeches.
Where don't you see his memorabilia?
Let me finish. Okay, I asked a question and I'm retorting you before I go forward.
Before you answer my questions.
Okay, so yes, it's important because he made a pretty. I mean, he said flaw, but his was mostly. I mean, that's not flaw. Was completely illogical to say that politicians should not be having visibility, okay, or presence in a political subdivision or in the political district, because that would be tantamount to campaigning, and I will be transgressing the campaign laws because I make a speech in a place or because I have a project in Zolgowi. So you know that's a flawed logic. But let me just come to his point. You said I was advertising myself.
Are you going to come to my question?
Yes. You said I was advertising myself, Dennis. I'm going to come to that now.
Okay.
Dennis, do I look like somebody who needs to advertise himself? I need a competitive process. 90% of my earnings globally have been involved in competitive processes. I have had job interviews. I have responded to requests for proposals. I was engaging the opposition. And I was engaged in opposition because I wanted to make the opposition better. I wanted for them to have a strategic plan. I wanted for them to have a degree of cohesion. I wanted for them to be able to plan beyond 2023 and to have a team that will be up and running on day one when they come to power because of the overwhelming challenges the country faces. Unfortunately, I didn't see any urgency. I didn't see any strategic plan. I didn't see any cohesion. And the internal dynamics of what is happening within the CPP scares me because I speak to everyone within the CPP. And the issue of who will be chosen, how the president will be chosen, what will be the criteria for choosing, and then what will be the political configuration going forward. And I see a lot of massive confusion. When I went to Monrovia in February, I met all the political leaders, including Mr. Cummings, and I spoke to them. What I gather from that is a ball of confusion. I see the disintegration of the CPP right at the convention in December of this year. I see that coming. And if I'm wrong, I would say I'm sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Caro. I have one more question for Mr. Jackson before I come to you.
Okay, so this whole, I just wanted to go back to the question that he just answered. Because again, I think we've talked about this a little bit, right? Just because you reach out to the CPP or the ANC or whatever other party you reach out to and they don't want to work with you, that doesn't mean there's not a cohesion there. That doesn't mean, could it be, did you ever ask yourself whether because of your history of working with other government and that all this pamphlet you've been pushing around economic things you've been giving the previous administration, none of them work, and they see that, they say, listen, we don't want to deal with that anymore because we mean well for the country? Did you ever think about that? Or you just see that as, hey, because they don't want to work with me, that means there's no cohesion? You should ask yourself that question. I don't want you to answer that right now. Wait, let me finish.
No,
Let me finish. No, that's for your personal self-analysis to do when you get off the show. Did you ever think about that? That because of my history of working with this other administration, you work with Ellen, you work with the Dole administration, you pitch yourself to George Weah when he just got elected, calling him your cousin, going there to meet with him, right? Because the ANC and the CPP sideline you because of your history, that does not mean that doesn't mean there's no cohesion there. That doesn't mean
Thank
that you're the end of a be all. The economic policy you've been pitching, the pamphlet, they don't make sense nowadays. They don't make sense. This is a new generation of looking at issues that are impacting the country. So you should think about that.
Mr. Carter, question for you.
Yeah.
So Mr. Jackson criticizes Mr. Cummings for people around him, especially in Liberia. So the question is always, who does Mr. Cummings have around him that could be his potential cabinet minister?
That is, again, I think this is something we, Sam and I were talking about earlier before we come on the show. There are great, credible people in. He even mentioned that, alluded to that. There are great people within the ANC, right? Whether it's the ANC or the CPP, as the structure is concerned, there are great people there. The time, as far as picking advisors, I think he's preparing himself to pick people that he think will complement his strength, or areas in which that he doesn't have certain where his for lack of a better word, weaknesses are, right? So he knows that you can go within the ANC and see the credible people there, right? There's Aliu, there's like you said, Dr. Francine, there's I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of people there. So in terms of picking, if I were to reveal to you, okay, he's going to put this person here, he's going to put this person here, that's a strategy thing that I'm putting out there that will just look at somebody. It's like you're playing a chess game, right? And you say, you're telling your opponent, oh, the next move I'm making, I'm moving it right here. It don't work like that, whether in politics or in the business world. That's campaign strategy.
Mr. Carter, the reason I asked is that Mr. Jackson made some criticism against Mr. Cummings, saying, who is he talking to? Like he said, he has no plan to deal with the pandemic. So he should be talking to people in his cycle that are from the public health world. So before Mr. Cummings talk on the economy or on healthcare, who are the people in the Cummings orbit that he's talking to make him better prepared to provide an alternative to what President Weah is doing? If we all believe that
I think he answered that question the last time he was on Spoon TV, right? Did you guys watch the Spoon TV?
I didn't watch it.
Okay. But no, he didn't. I watched it. He didn't answer that question. Who does he talk to? He never said who he talks to.
Okay, I think so. The question was around. I think it was Kev Hassan that kept going about that. Right. Why he's.
Yeah, you can answer my question instead of Kev Hassan's question.
Right. So this is they initially when they when this not Ebola but pandemic things was happening. The first initiative that he made, and he said this on Spoon TV, was that initially we thought this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we're supposed to do. But instead, they made visitation to the counties, whether people within the Common Africa Foundation, and come up with different accession. Say, okay, initially this is what we thought we needed to do. But after we've gone there and made physical analysis and interacted with people and talked to doctors, there are pictures out there. He puts those things on social media. So it's not to say he's not talking to people. He himself is physically taking himself in the field.
And I'm not talking about pandemic alone. I'm talking about in all other areas where because right now he is in opposition to the Weah administration. So he should be critiquing Weah on those policies. So who is he talking to when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to policing, when it comes to healthcare, it comes to the economy, agriculture, and all the 9 yards? That's the general question I'm asking, because that's Sam's criticism.
So here's what I would say to that. There are people within the party, and I mentioned this earlier. There are people within that party that understand what is in healthcare, agriculture, economics, and whatever sector you want to. There are people that have experience in those very sectors. I don't have to name them. I don't have to name them to you.
Forget about you, man. Forget about you. Forget about you.
You can say I should name them. Why would I want to name them to you?
Thank you.
We're not even close to campaigning season yet. When the time comes to campaigning season, you will see those people be revealed.
That is a bunch of malarkey.
Let me go to Mr. Jackson.
You may not want to hear, but that's the truth.
Yeah, that is a bunch of malarkey. You know it too.
Mr. Jackson, you criticize Mr. Cummings. You say there's no plan to deal with the pandemic. There's Mr. Cummings talk about raising the national budget, but there's no summary or the roadmap. Explain that criticism. What do you mean?
First of all, let me just go back to this young man.
Let's get
He
to that.
won't. So people who are around Cummings, they're working sub rosa, they're working like subterranean. They won't come up to the surface. He won't tell us who his advisors are. Okay, so we won't know who they are. So we won't poison them. We won't kill them. So he's hiding them. So that's the premise of all of that nonsense he was talking. Okay, and you know this is a democracy. You can't fool me. Okay, so let's go to the pandemic.
I'll let you talk, and I'll come.
Okay, the pandemic is a healthcare issue. That is the focus. And when you want to, they ask you on a show what you plan to do, and you tell them, say, wash your hands, wear gloves, wash your hands, wear masks, and take personal responsibility, and that's be the limit of your policy of how you're going to counteract that disease. You don't have a plan. You should go in there and talk about the frontline workers. What you would do about the frontline workers? How you would incentivize them? How do you get PPEs for them?
Did mention
How
those
you get
things.
global? My man, can you just hold your horses? I know you coming. People are too little bit, bombastic and too little bit emotional. But take your time.
Mr. Jackson, you support the We Are administration.
No, but let me finish.
We are doing these things.
I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet.
I want to make.
But you asked me the 3 questions, so
let
let me
him
read the
say
first one.
that, and then he said
He doesn't have any plan to control the border. He doesn't know how many PPEs we need. He doesn't know how many gloves we need. He doesn't know how many ventilators and oxygen things we need. You haven't done an inventory of the therapeutics in the country. You haven't done a needs analysis on the costing. You don't know what the budget financing gap is, what you're going to need, donor commitment. You haven't done anything about a post-COVID economic recovery strategy paper, what you would do to put people back to work after COVID. You come out and you just math, like, I won't be president, I will do this. That's not how an educated man who was the 3rd highest man in Coca-Cola should run a campaign. Before you come to the program, you sit with your people in a room and they prepare you. And you come and you articulate. I ran away from that dentist. They didn't run away from me. The CPP and the people there, I just knew they were a bunch of jokers, and I didn't want to be with them. And I ran away from them. They didn't kick me out. I ran away. I ran.
Let me offer a rebuttal.
Thank you. Hold on, Mr. Carter. So, Mr. Jackson, my question: you talk about raising the national budget, and you say Mr. Cummings does not have a roadmap. What is the We Are roadmap?
Let him talk about We Are roadmap for this
pandemic. I asked him, so let him talk
about We Are roadmap for the pandemic.
Yeah.
I want to hear that. That's coming. He said what Cummings isn't doing. Let him tell us what We Are administration is doing.
Okay. The We Are roadmap is very simple.
The budget and the pandemic. Go ahead.
Okay. We Are roadmap is very simple. There's an incident management team that is there, but they're weak and they need reorganization. The incident management team that were left there by Toba Yiswa. They've put together a veritable response, but that response was not resilient enough for this new wave of the Delta variant. So that kind of smashed the resilience, okay? So that's why they're having all these challenges. So it's clear there's an incident management team, there's a health policy that's articulated by the Ministry of Health, and we as Economic Development Plan is the PAPD. So he has written something. Yes. You may disagree with it. You may say it's ineffectual.
Dennis, may I?
Let's say, because I will come to you for Cummings plan, because most of the time
it's not meeting. You may say it's not meeting the social economic outcome indicators, but they have a plan. They have a national accounting office at LISGIS. The central bank puts out reports quarterly, monthly, and LISGIS had just, together with the health ministry, they just put out the Liberian Demographic Health Survey of 2020, and I'm sure you haven't read it, and I don't believe that Cummings has read it. And if you have read it, can you give me the maternal mortality figure from there, or the infant mortality figure from there, or the percentage of people saying young girls that get pregnant? If you do that, I will apologize to you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I don't know how you know who read it or not. But here's
No,
the
no,
question to you,
let
Mr. Jackson.
him tell me these figures.
I'm
Mr. Jackson.
not here again. I'm not here to again. This is where we differentiate
You haven't
practicality.
even read it. You
No,
haven't read
listen
it.
to me. This is where we differentiate practicality. Being reading stuff on paper and implementing it are two different things. You guys are used to writing things on paper, but no practicality.
Yeah,
Not
no,
since the
that is
80s,
that,
not
that
since
is
the 60s, not now. So you are going back to this old way of doing things. Writing report. You want me to go read report? I read the Crow report. I read the mop up stuff. Again, you're sending me to central bank to go read report. I'm on their site every time. There's just because you write things and writing things and implementing them are two different things, Mr. Jackson. Like you know that.
Mr. Carter.
This is why nobody wants to work with you, because we've had this history of writing papers and no implementation. Let me get to your question. Now let me answer your question. You talked about the Weir administration having a plan. We collect $400,000 a month for COVID-19, right? Every month at the airport, whether to charge people to get them tested. That's equates to $4.8 million a year. Tell me, what are we doing with that money to the point that we couldn't do anything, that we're now at this variant, we're at a pandemic, when the rest of the world is easing off of pandemic, easing restriction to people getting back into the society? We are now looking to potentially locking down, right? People are dying, right? That's huge amount of money. This is money that could have been spent on community health. Not everybody that gets sick want to drive to JFK to come to JFK to get tested, right? We should have community health centers in community. If I get sick if I'm in White Plains, I get sick, there should be a community health center close by where I can go get tested, right? I don't have to come to JFK. Those are the things that are not happening in the country. But you are bold enough to tell me that there's an incident management plan in place. Yes, we do have that. Here we have a variant that's either derived from either India, Indian people letting the country with it, right? Like
Mr. Carter,
the numbers are there.
Mr. Carter, in the absence of that, since we are not seeing this plan from Mr. Weir, will it be prudent for Mr. Cummings to have an alternative plan? But what I hear you saying is he can show it now because it's not campaign time.
No, I'm not saying that he doesn't. Of course, there will be an alternative plan. Obviously, you and I both know that.
And where is that?
What do you mean?
Is it written down anywhere, or he's not supposed to do that now?
Of course. And this is the notion that I think Liberians need to come out of. That just because somebody doesn't reveal their cards to you, they're holding their card to the chest, that doesn't mean they don't have an ace in their hand, or they don't know what they're doing. Right?
Just tell me they are holding it to their chest, because I want to see.
Well, hold it. That's. And I don't want to get into the business. No. Wait. And this is why I think you've been out of the corporate world of business, or even you. If I am competing with you, whether on business deal or whatever it is, Dennis, or you may not know that, Mr. Jackson, because you've been out of the corporate world or whatever. I can't reveal all my strategy to you. I just can't. If I'm competing with you, I know what I can talk on surface level, and I know what I have on paper implementation, that when I get to the point that when it's time to reveal cards, hands on deck, I will reveal that to you. Somebody that worked on his way to the third level of Coca-Cola, right? To a chief operating officer. You're telling me he's running. Can you believe that you're telling me he's running for president and doesn't have a plan on the economy? This is what we want to believe here. This is what we want to believe here. Just because they don't reveal it to you.
Mr. Carter, to be honest with you, because we don't see it, so for now, that's what we believe.
I know that is there. I know that is there. It is being articulated, it's being honed, it's being developed, when the time comes, you will see. I don't have to.
I just want to announce that long ago, Focus on Liberia carried out a poll, unscientific poll, when we put out that who you think will become president or who's doing well, and we put different people on the screen. So our back room will put that poll result and see where, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Boakai, Mr. Weir, and see where they stand. Let me warn you, it's not scientific. So according to our polls, let me see what we have here. We have the poll number there. You can also vote.
It's unanimous.
Of Liberia. Of the 159 responses, Alexander Benedict Cummings have 52%. Joseph Newman Boaga came second with 27%, and a different candidate, I believe. No, sorry, I think I'm reading this wrong. Our backroom, please read our poll results for me.
You got it right, Alex.
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Cummings.
So, Judge, we are 10%. So, according to
Dennis, let me read the poll results.
Okay.
According to this poll, like you said earlier, 159% responded to this poll. Alexander B. Cummings is at 52.2%. Joseph Yamambwaka, 27.7%. George Manawia is at 10.7%.
Thank you.
So those are the three highest that we were able to calculate.
Thank you, Dennis. I mean,
thank
you.
This poll has been going for a long time now, but we have stopped announcing it. So if you are there now watching the show, please take the time and go and participate in that poll. Now, at this time, I want us to take a short break, and after that, we're going to bring in our viewers to chime in into this discussion. We'll take this short break, and we're going to be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews.
Thank you and welcome back, Mr. Jackson. Before we go to our poll, before we go to our comments, I want to ask you a question. Another criticism, you criticize Mr. Cummings about Cummings Foundation. And I read your post, I was like, okay, where is Mr. Jackson going with this? You were criticizing the board of directors of Mr. Cummings Foundation. That's the board, and we all know the purpose of a board. Okay. So what was that criticism all about?
Well,
elaborate.
Since he speaks and I don't have a chance to counteract, let me just go and counteract, 30 seconds what he said. He said the Central Bank of Liberia annual report is totally irrelevant. He said the Liberian Demographic and Health Survey, all the reports
I didn't say it was irrelevant. Don't put words
in my mouth. Can you shh?
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, be quiet. Okay, let me talk. You talk, I didn't have you. Okay, listen.
Because I didn't hear that he said it was totally irrelevant, but go ahead.
Yeah, but he said he doesn't want to go to do real reports. Reports are for all people. He said that. So that means the UN Human Development Report is for all people to read. All of the economic reports from the Federal Reserve Bank, like the jobless report every Thursday, all of those reports there are trash. So people should not look at those reports. They should just go and make policy in isolation. So I don't think that's a view of the ANC. That maybe it's a Carter's personal view. Okay.
Thank you.
And then what was the question again? You asked me.
I'm sorry. The Cummings African Foundation board.
Great. Okay. First of all, I don't want people to misunderstand where I'm going with this, because I want to be very clear because of the sensitivities of the issue involved.
Right.
I look at Mr. Cummings' board of directors and I see a Findlay, I see a Tolbert, I see a Tutman, I see a Dennis, and I see Bedell, and I see some other, but like 5 of them, okay? And I'm looking at cultural and ethnic sensitivity in 2021. Dennis, you're not listening, you're talking. I'm looking at ethnic sensitivity in 2021. You know, I grew up in Monrovia in the 50s and 60s, especially the 60s, where you go to see Miss Junior Miss, that's so Western names. When you go to anything they put out on the radio, all those things there were mostly Western names, okay? And then the people that ran the country, the pre-oligarchy in 1980. So I'm saying, Mr. Cummings, as brilliant as he is, he must not have thought about this in terms of ethnic or cultural sensitivity. And I think, I need to bring that to the attention of the public. You know what happened? The views are pretty much split. I mean, the Cummings people don't like it because it exposes Mr. Cummings' minimal understanding of the social dynamics in the country, where he will have a board and no Yakpawulo there and no Flomo there. But it does not mean Mr. Cummings did it deliberately. It just means to me that being a political neophyte, he will not deal with that issue. See, that is some of the thing about.
So what is the ethnicity? Which ethnic group his board members come from?
At looking at the Western names, the Finleys, the Tutmos, the Dennis, the Bidel, and the others, right?
And what does that mean?
I didn't see no Yakpawulo.
But what does
Dennis,
the name?
can I answer that question, please? Can I respond?
No, I just want you to clarify exactly what, because this guy is Gabriel Carter. Is that a Western name, and you prefer him to be what? So what
I know those people very well, Dennis. So if you want to go that route, I can.
Let me answer that question, Dennis.
No, hold on. It's not a question. I want him to be very clear, because he says you see Western names.
Western names in the 21st century in Liberia. If you put something together, you only have Western names. It tells me you don't have any cultural ethnic sensitivity. And all of those people on that list were people with ties to the oligarchy.
Oligarchy is not ethnicity.
Let me answer that.
Ethnicity.
Dennis,
the oligarchy were composed of people who ran the country for 133 years. And I don't want to use the pejorative like Congo and native. I would never do that. But I always say, because it's a class thing. And it's a pre-1980s class configuration.
Thank you.
Dennis, let me respond to that.
Mr. Carter, hold on. You will respond. I want to get clarity. Go ahead.
So here,
there are others who want to call in. There's others who even want to come on the show, gentlemen.
Let me clarify that. You can bring people on, but let me clarify where he's going with it. And this is the kind of narrative that we need to change in this country, in Liberia, going forward. This whole Congo versus native mentality that we've held on to, our parent held on to, our grandparent held on to, that has got us to war, like since the 80s. That has got us to that, right? And this is the same narrative Mr. Jackson is pushing again, right? Here, let me tell you why that is because just because people on there, there's no Yakpawulo on there, doesn't mean that he's insensitive to the cultural dynamics in the country. Here's an individual who doesn't have a base. He could have said, hey, I'm from Maryland, so I'm just going to have my base in Maryland, right? That would have been playing into this whole native thing that we have perpetuated since the inception of this country, right? So please kill that argument off. This is a new Liberia. This is a new generation of Liberian coming. We're not playing into that whole native and Congo thing. Liberia is for everybody. And if you haven't bought into that vision, then I guess you should retire just like everybody else. Liberia is for everybody. Just because somebody elect a board that don't have a native name, that doesn't mean they're playing into this of oligarchy thing. Don't pitch that thing to the young Liberian people. You're poisoning the mind of young Liberians.
Thank you. On that list, I saw a Bidel. Is that Western name too?
Oh yeah, Bidel. You know the Bidel there. Of course, they're mixed. Everybody on that thing there is mixed, but you see the configuration. Then, if you want to argue it, it's up to you. But
no. I just want to get
everything. No, but listen to me. One of the things that we Liberians try to do is try to model a conversation and try to play like it does not exist. I live in reality. And if you have all those names, Western sounding names, they reflect a certain degree of lack of sensitivity, ethnic sensitivity. That's my opinion. And if you want to say Bidel Agoni and Finland Abasa name, and this Dennis that so and so, that is up to you. But the reality is that we have a serious problem of ethnic division in the country. And we need to fix that. Okay?
And you think he's perpetuating that?
Culture and sensitivity. In the United States too, we have racism. And when boards are made in the United States now, typically when company management have been put together, their cultural and ethnic diversity, they have diversity experts that come and help corporations on how to diversify the workplace. And you know that, Mr. Carter.
I do. Let me respond a little bit. One minute.
No.
1 minute. I do know that diversity and inclusion thing it just pick up in become a thing in a trend in this whole George Floyd incident, right? Don't
No. It's not with the
no.
George
Wait. Please,
Is this before
please
George
wait.
Floyd? Stop it, man. Before George Floyd, this has been long.
Wait. Let me finish. Oh man, let me finish. Right? You elect people on your board because you
Mr.
want
Carter.
them to help you raise money. Right?
Mr. Carter.
You put people on there with diverse background to help you raise money. That's just it.
Mr. Carter.
Nothing else.
Mr. Carter, we have a caller on the line. So let's
Please.
get one caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Emmerich Nickel.
Oh, Emmerich, welcome.
I'm calling from the state of Maryland, and then I'm glad to have you, put me through.
Thank you. Well, your question or comment, quickly.
Just comment, okay? You see, this is the problem we are having. Our problem, when I spoke before, or I wrote before that, I did not come to America by choice because of the situation back home. People like Samuel Jackson put us into this whole issue we are having with our crisis. They are not truthful. Samuel Jackson, to a point, benefited from all forms of government, all shape of government in Liberia, whether it's the oligarchy and so that he's talking about. First of all, it's hard to differentiate the native man from the Congo man. My name is Emmerich Nickel, but I will tell you, he was talking about Zorgowi. But when we go to Zorgowi, people respect me more over there to Kample, Butu, Piaple, those places, Lapierre number 1, Lapierre number 2. People respect me more there than someone like Samuel Jackson. So are you going to look at me and say, because of my name, to say, okay, because Dennis Jai, when you listen to the name Dennis Jai, you even think that you link to Sano. But at the same time, too, I have a background from Sano. So the whole name thing to say, because someone put a name to the board and say, oh, these are the same oligarchy, the oligarchy system and so, that's why we say Samuel Jackson is in error. And that's the reason why we try to change this whole page to turn a new page. And don't go by the name or the way a person speaks. Yeah. Because we are wrong. We are wrong. Some people live in Ghana, and I just want to give an instance. Some people live in Ghana for so long. They adapted that tone, that tongue. And you cannot just be able to say because the person speaks that way, the person is not a Liberian. We have to stop it. Samuel Jackson is antiquated. The old system is in Samuel Jackson, and he uses the old system to manipulate our people. And we've been going through this for a very long time. We need to stop it to see how we can move our country forward. Someone like Samuel Jackson, I respect him, I love him. He's my pops asking, we talk behind closed doors. But when it comes to certain things, the national interest is where I stand. And I don't agree with him that because your name is Dennis, your name is Emmerich Bessie Nickel, who from Kample. My mom from Kample, that I serve the people in Kample, in Bellegarde. All right? To say because my name is that way, so I don't know. Samuel Jackson, you are mistaken. Do not say names. You'll be in error. You'll be in error in Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me bring in a few comments, and Mr. Jackson, you will be the first to respond. The first comment yet from Darling, what would say, Dennis, you just screwed up as a journalist. You should have pressed Mr. Jackson to further explain what he means by there are two different master degrees. All right, I accept screwing up. Dwight Port, I guess he wants Mr. Cummings to speak with militancy.
Yep.
Samuel Jackson is running behind the Benjamins, ANC. The CPP will not put him on payroll to his wish. The CDC calls, they are paying him to run their propagandas. Cecilia Paul, same way Samuel Jackson wrote about Henry Costa, he said Costa was not answering his phone calls, etc. That folks, political parties shun you, pressure groups ignore you, you are just roving around. We will pack you from the CDC, just watch. Go and help Samuel Tue at the Ministry of Finance. And that's from Cecilia Paul. Cotton Edge Cummings will be a replica of the progressive. Again, Mr. Jackson, you are not explaining yourself well tonight. You are not articulating your position. That's from Ivan. Free will say Cummings was not seeking attention for his philanthropy. Fala Taylor, Mr. Jackson, I'm very much disappointed in you. Say that President Weah can articulate more than Cummings. Unbelievable. More and more Obe, what makes Cummings a better president? That's what Dennis Jai asked. I expected Carter to explain what Cummings' economic plans are with examples. Continental Liberians no longer going to accept the government has a package rather than a model. Cummings is an example of a package. All right, those are some of the comments. Let me start with you, Mr. Jackson. You heard the call from Emre Nico and then the comments. Your response.
Emmerich lives in his own little world. I respect him a lot, but I mean, he just attacks me every second he gets. So I really can't respond to him that there was something there, but I like him a lot, and we just move forward. Look, I don't listen to comments and threads on a show because everybody comes up with their biases, with their rose-colored lenses, and we are in a very highly politically charged environment. So I don't really pay attention to people. If I paid attention to who curse me, I will be having some kind of a mental breakdown. The way they cuss me, the way they cuss me, my cancer, they cuss my this, they cuss my that. I'm very comfortable in who I am. I'm a very strong person. Okay, I do exactly what I want to do. And at my funeral, you guys must play He Did It His Way. I don't cater to the ruling party. Okay, and I don't cater to the CPP. They didn't shun me, but they were playing this hide and seek game of waiting and not putting in structures and stuff. And I was seeing failure, so I ran away from them. Cummings didn't text me and say, "My man, I won't be bothering you again." He told me we were going to do something in June, then May, and and the rest of them. Oh, my man, we'll wait the next year. Then that time we start a campaign. Cool, we start. You're not raising money now. You're not putting an organization together now. You're not putting structures now. You're waiting, and you got what, 27 months before the next election. You're wasting your time. You need to put together a strong organization. You need to be present in all of the political districts. You need to set up real structures, and you need to start putting up institutions, and you got to start raising money, and you got to start putting policy prescriptions with a manifesto or some published document to show where you stand. So if you listen to me like Gabriel Carter say the manifesto or the aims and aspirations of the political party, that secret that they in the gravel bush, they will not talk about it. You fooling Cummings. Let me tell you now.
Thank you.
You are fooling Cummings, man.
Thank you. Gabriel, before you come, he says Samuel P. Jackson is a Western name. These days, people choose name not based on tribalism. Samuel Wallow, it is the behavior that people engage, not their first and last name. Denny Philip, the fact is all the board members of Cummings Africa Foundation are Congo people, period. Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I think, just to piggyback on what, Nick, Emmerich, the comment that Emmerich made. I mean, I keep saying this, and I will continue to say this, right? And I think Mr. Cummings actually articulated that in some point during his, various talk shows, that Liberia is not for a one tribal group of people. Just because I have, Gabriel Carter, which is a Western name, that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean that I belong to whatever, trying to put this whole Congo and native things. That's not the Liberia we want. That's the Liberia our grandparent lived in. That's the Liberia our parent lived in, right? That's not the Liberia we want to see, right? This is not the Liberia we want to see. And I think Emmerich pointed that out rightly. To go back to some of the comment without trying to talk about all of them, Obed was saying that Mr. Jackson actually asked for Cummings' plan. He talks about some of his plan on a base level, what I call gross level. Gross level meaning that he gives you the abstract version of it, right? He talks about them on an abstract level. He will touch them on certain, whether the economic, the agriculture.
But Carter, are you listening to yourself? Can I
talk?
Yeah,
can I let?
When you say crazy stuff, I have to stop you.
Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
Let me end. This is the reason why I don't.
Go ahead, Carter.
This is not Palaba Hut, right? You
go
talk.
ahead.
I listen to you respectfully. Allow me to, right?
He talks about those things. Almost out of time. Let's make the point.
He talks about those things on a gross level. As far as the detail aspect of it, right? the country is still headed, we're still not in campaign 2023 yet, right? It's still being developed. And that's what I keep talking about here. So that whole narrative that he should come just lay every card on the table that you can see it, and now that will make you believe that he's actually fit to run for president. That is not that's not the argument that I think we want to hear here. And I think everybody's seeing that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, I want to put a few comments again on the board, on the screen. And then we can go, we can close this up, right? Is Jackson your native name?
You're totally unprepared. You couldn't articulate the economic policy of the ANC.
They told you you couldn't.
Everybody's
saying that you couldn't even.
Well, can you give me a chance and let me finish?
Go ahead.
You know, instead of our growing up, you know, because of my sharp mob, I thought I said something, the people won't beat me. They say the Gabriel won't do the night, but then I saw somebody won't jump on me. Gabriel, the mafia have been shopping for 46 years in the arena dealing with people, okay, in a very fair way. I'm not here to show that I know better than you. Probably more educated than I am. You're younger, you have more energy. But let me just give you a piece of my mind, some advice.
No, Mr. Jackson.
No, but I have to
respond to the issue instead of advising.
I'm dealing with the issue. I'm dealing with the issue. The issue is if the ANC wants to show itself as a credible political party, it must build institutions. The opposition must build institutions. The opposition must articulate an economic and social development policy, have a social welfare policy. It must have a governance policy. It must be able to have a narrative. It must be able to have the overarching reason or its reason for existence. It must articulate that in the document. They must have interactive website where people can go and donate monies, you know, to the membership drives. How do you run a campaign out of Mr. Cummings' pocket, out of Mr. Uri's pocket, out of Mr. Wia's pocket? You can't run stuff like that. You got to build institutions. I've been telling Henry Costa for 2 years now, Henry Costa, you got 300,000 people that are listening to you. If 10% of the people, like 30,000 of those, if they just give $1,000, that's $30 million. You see, the reason why they don't like me, because when I say $30 million, it scares them, Janice. For 30,000 people giving 1,000, that's 30 million. And you don't do that one time. You can do it over a period of 20 months where they pay $50 a month. By the time you have reached now, since 2018, 3 years later, you have 30 to 40 million. And with 30 to 40 million dollars, the opposition now becomes strong. You have an office in the Liberian centers here. You have a major office in Monrovia. You start doing projects in Zogowi, this place, that place, that place. That's how you run an institution. But one man just want to ascend to the presidency, take money for a party, pay people off. That's the old Liberian way. That has never worked. So that's why when political leaders leave power, their parties die. MPP died. NDPL died. You know, Chewy Party died. And the ANC, I'm afraid, without Cummings.
MPP is right now the VP. But I got one last caller on the line, and after the caller will be, you respond to them, then we give out your concluding statement. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah. This is Alex Jones calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
Alex Jones, your question or comment?
Okay, first I have a question for each of your panelists, and then I'll just a comment. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for hosting this debate because it's very important.
Hold on, Alex. Hold on 1 second. Caller, hold on. We're going to get back to you. Let Alex complete. Go ahead, Alex. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Focus on Liberia for such a healthy debate. Most of the other media shy away from such and just seem to promote their candidate or whoever they're supporting. But this is very informative. I will just give my first two questions and then I'll make a short comment and sit back. The first one is to Mr. Carter. You seem to be very defensive in terms of Cummings' candidacy. My question to you is, what do you think that Cummings isn't doing right, that he's missed the ball on? And what would be your own personal professional advice in order to help his candidacy? My question to Samuel Jackson. Mr. Jackson, by the way, you performed very beautifully in this debate. You're very calm, collected, so I must give you that. But my question to you, you recently endorsed George Weah, and even during the debate, you criticized some of his approach on how he's managing the crisis, the COVID, and other issues. Is your endorsement of Mr. Weah simply out of frustration for the MP, the CPP, or do you really believe that Mr. Weah is a competent individual to run Liberia's economy and social and political economy? So if you can answer those two questions, and in 30 seconds, I just want to say again, Carter, you did a very good job by coming to face such a veteran. But I think you're a little more passionate and emotional, and so I think you need to work on that. And Mr. Jackson, I must say you performed brilliantly in terms of how
Alex, we will talk offline, Alex. I will respond to that.
Thank you, Alex. Let me take my next caller. Hello, caller. Your name and where you calling from?
Hi, Dennis. This is Emmerich again calling back.
Emmerich, you used it.
No, I had to call back.
You have a
conversation. Moves on. I have to come back and speak on these issues.
Yeah, but quickly, Emmerich, we almost
the opportunity.
We almost out of time. So 1 minute.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I listened to. Gabriel isn't over there representing the economic policies of ANC or Mr. Cummings. That's one thing. All right. So there are certain questions I don't expect him to go into. Yeah, but he's a mayor of his own. It's not that I'm trying to put him down. He's very brilliant, a brilliant young man. But then we go back again. All right. You see, Alex Jones coming on to say Mr. Jackson is calm. Yeah, he has to be calm because he was hit by the brick wall. And I like what Gabriel, gave to him. Gabriel, he stood his ground, and I think to me he was strong on this debate. So the whole issue, if you have Mr. Cummings' team on, he can answer. They can answer those questions about his economic plans and so. But one thing I see, and this is the reason why I want to throw light to this. It shows that Mr. Jackson is disconnected from the reality of the way modern, organization operate. He wants somebody who's going to come and give his view, to give economic plans and details and comprehensive report. That's not how it is done.
Okay. You
can open a debate for a comprehensive report. We'll send a representative to give a comprehensive report.
Okay.
But then to see Mr. Jackson going that way, to me, it shows that he has nothing much to offer because he knows that Gabriel is not within that cycle to be able to give that comprehensive report. If Gabriel had come on as ANC representative on economics, you can be able to ask the question. But
thank you.
That Mr. Jackson has nothing tonight to offer.
Thank you. So we asking the ANC to send that economic representative to meet Mr. Jackson. Will be here.
That.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. We're going to do that.
Thank you.
And I beg you, yeah.
Right.
I have a better chance of getting pregnant than for them to send an economic advisor. I know they're speaking to one of my friends who's a very good economist, but haven't crystallized the relationship yet.
Let's answer Alex's questions, and then we're going to come number one. First to you, Mr. Carter. Alex is saying, what do you think Mr. Cummings isn't doing well in this whole campaign, and what would be your advice?
I don't even want to get too detailed into that. I think where Alex is coming from is more of a personal background. I know he has a good relationship with Mr. Jackson, and he's supporting another candidate. So of course, and he doesn't agree with the CPP and the ANC because the same reason why the same reason why Mr. Jackson doesn't agree with the CPP. In terms of what I think, I think Alex is Mr. Cummings is doing everything great right now in terms of being visible, going up. Show me another candidate that's going on shows and really articulating their what they want for the country, right? So I think he's doing everything right. He's taking every box right now that a Liberian candidate we should expect from a Liberian candidate. So I think he's doing everything right now. So that whole argument that they don't think that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, I can't really find fault into what he's doing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Your question also from Alex is: are you really endorsing President Weah out of frustration because you said the CPP too much chaos and all this, or is it because you genuinely believe that President Weah is doing well, or it's just out of frustration? You feeling bad for ANC for?
Well,
CPP?
I'm doing it for several reasons, but let me tell you my overarching reason. Okay, I mean, like that would be like 80% of the reason. I believe that Weah is more amenable, okay, for recalibration and reform than for the CPP to come together as a cohesive force, build the institutions, build the structure, and mount a credible campaign against Mr. Weah without the body politic disintegrating. And you will see that starting in December when they go to the elections, you will see the wahala that's going to come out of that election. And Dennis, I want you to just save this tape. In December, there'll be a disintegration. And from that disintegration, you will see the political machination going forward, politics, and they could destabilize the country, because if they lose the election, they will claim that they were cheated, and there could be a confrontation between the two forces that could do some serious damage to the country. So I prefer to go ahead and a popular candidate at one time, Mr. Weah, who serves the aims and aspirations of the majority of the people in the country in terms of the downtrodden. I think I'd rather support him to recalibrate and to reform than to follow an opposition that, number one, I'm philosophically opposed to in terms of their social orientation, political orientation, and also the lack of cohesion within that, and the fact that they're disheveled and they send somebody here or somebody to talk about it here cannot even tell them whether they have an economic plan, and that economic plan is hidden in the gravel bush somewhere.
I don't know what you call gravel bush. Gravel got no bush.
Please tell me about that.
Let me read some comments, and then Mr. Carter, you will respond, because these comments are for you here. Guy Vauer say ANC has no policies. Momo Sendemani, the young brother talking about you, Mr. Carter, is so new to what he's trying to uphold Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson dealt with him a nice whipping here tonight. For the record, I'm not a fan of Mr. Jackson, but I love the way he has blown away Cummings and his failed policies. Continue with the then one last thing, because I want you to respond to this again from Obe saying, did Carter just say abstract development plan? Nobody is wanting the entire plan Cummings has. The audience want to know how Cummings intends to do it. Synopsis with examples and where he did that before. That's what the people want to hear. By the way, Obe is a supporter of Joseph
CDC.
Walker.
Oh, now he's with Joseph Walker. I thought he was with CDC before.
Go ahead and respond to those comments.
Listen, I know Mr. Jackson has been in the political landscape for so as most of these comments that are being made right now. Those are people that have been in this political landscape for centuries, right? They subscribe to this whole notion that somebody coming, they should. You holding this man to a standard that you've never held any political candidate to, not one, right? You're holding this man to a standard, and the reason why you're holding him to a standard, and it's okay to hold him to that. That's because he has set himself as an outlier in terms of what a candidate is supposed to be. So it's okay that you hold him to a standard, but the fact that you've never held anybody to that level of standard, it shows your hypocrisy here. You've been in politics for 42 years or how many years, right? Show me a candidate that you've held to this standard than Mr. Cummings, right?
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
you cannot say that. You cannot say that because
I held her to the standard. I did.
No, you did not.
Check.
You did not. No, you did not.
Go ahead, Mr. Carter, and your thoughts.
I was here when Mrs. Celis was running. You did not hold her to that standard.
I did.
Right?
I did.
But anyway, let me continue. Let me continue. This whole notion that Liberians should subscribe to this whole old politics that when somebody is coming because they don't have somebody on their board, that's because they're heading towards this oligarchy that existed for a long time. We've already debunked that, right? We've already debunked that. Another thing that you mentioned, you kept alluding to, and so as a lot of other comments that people are making, that there's no policy. There's no policy. They know how. They work with her. None of those people were around when George Weah were around when George Weah were running. Did they ask for those things? Have we seen any? Right? Have we seen any of that? And I'll keep saying it, to actually believe within your mind that a man who ran over $200 billion company to not have a policy in plan, to just think that he just coming with this genie in a bottle, he's just going to whip something out and at time of election. That doesn't subscribe to the person that we know him to be. Everything. Again, I keep telling you guys, look at his trail. Whether it's in Coca-Cola at the time he's running Coca-Cola in Africa, or go to the Cummings Africa Foundation, what he's doing there right now, right? He's not in corporation and in corporate American anymore. Look at what he's doing with his foundation. But if you want to go back, look at what he's done with Coca-Cola in Africa. Go do some research and then come back and debate me and say this guy doesn't have the plan to do what he wanted to do.
My viewers are also holding me to a higher standard. Obe said Dennis Jai is engaging in selective colors. Oh, I'm sorry, Obe. Our phone lines are not connected, so the two callers that they call my phone directly, and I was able to put them through. But I've been reading your comments, so I don't know what I'm going to be selecting separate people for. Dwight Paul said, did CDC build an institution in 12 years? Where is it? Dwight Paul also
it's called the Liberian government.
That is not an institution.
You have been around for 46 years. Where is your institution?
My house, my wife, my kids, my family, my dog, my cat, and my retirement, my pension. Those are institutions I built, and I'm living a very comfortable life here in Southern Africa, enjoying myself and eating every day, drinking mineral water, not far out of water. That's an institution I built. An institution doesn't have
we're talking about one that works for the entire Liberia. We're talking about one that works for the entire Liberia.
When they've done that, I have a foundation in Liberia called the DYAP, Determined Youth Against Poverty. We build a church. We feed over 150 people a week. We've been doing that for a long time. Go ask Reverend Nuno.
We're talking about institution that works for all Liberia. We're not talking about
your I'm not a wealthy man. I took my corporate career short from America to come.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. At this time, I want to thank both of you for coming and engaging one another. I want to thank our viewers for hanging in there with us and continue to watch us. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, guess who's coming to town? Take a guess. Dr. Tukwana Tipote will be right here on Focus on Liberia to face me. Dr. Tipote will be reflecting on his 80 years, and most of those years have been spent in politics. So we're going to be looking at Dr. Tipote. He's going to be here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Please tune in and listen to Dr. Tipote. He's turning 80 on July 17th. So let me start with you, Mr. Carter. You have 1 minute. Give your closing statement. Why you think Cummings will make a great president, and what are his chances? Close with that, and Sam Jackson will think why he's not, and why should it be George Weah. Go ahead, sir.
For having me on the show, Mr. Jackson. Thank you for coming on. I think that was very brave of you, knowing what we know, to really come and defend such a administration that were doing what they're doing. So I really commend you for that. In general terms, as I've said before, I think, why not Alex? Why not Mr. Cummings, right? Why not Mr. Cummings? Look at his track record in corporate America. Look at what he did to expand a global entity, right? In addition, when he left from that, look at what he's doing in Liberia with the Cummings Africa Foundation, right? Leadership is defined in crisis. Look what he's doing currently right now, right? With the pandemic. That tells you this is somebody who is proactive in their actions, right? This is what we call leadership. The leadership is defined in crisis. If somebody like this, proven in corporate America, took it to a foundational level, and now as a private citizen is doing more than the average entire administration is doing, right? This is the kind of person that we want. We know that that was just something that will continue in his presidency when he takes over in Liberia. And this is why I think that this he has the experience, corporate experience. He has from a foundational level as well, dealing with different companies and government organization in Africa, right? So he has that public sector experience as well, right? Whether you want to believe it or not. So I believe those skill sets from the corporate level to dealing with the bureaucracy in different parts of Africa can be transformed into transforming Liberia in his presidency. This is why I believe that he's the best candidate for Liberia by a mile, by light years ahead of everybody else, including the current administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Gabriel, was a very spirited debate. I mean, I think we basically stood our own ground. We did extremely well. I mean, in terms of articulating some of the position of Mr. Cummings. I just think Mr. Cummings is an extremely brilliant man, good corporate citizen, good citizen of the country. But I think he's not a good political leader. I think he's a political neophyte. I think he lacks the necessary skills. And it's unfortunate because if Mr. Cummings were to ascend to the presidency, I think we'll see some significant changes. But unfortunately, doesn't have the skills, doesn't have the organization, and doesn't know how to get to the presidency. And that will be, and even if he got to the presidency, the fact that being a political neophyte will also obstruct him in navigating the very difficult political economy we have in the country. So I prefer for recalibration of Mr. Weah and reform within the CDC, align myself with the reform wing within the CDC to move forward. And that's where I stand. I want to thank you all, Dennis, and thank you, Mr. Carter. I look forward to having another debate or discussion another time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to that.
Dr. Dekiose, is this a comedy show? The session needs to be paraphrased. I put that on the board that, how people look at things very differently. But we want to thank you all. Keep the comments coming. We love your feedback. And we'll be joining you tomorrow. Thank you, gentlemen, for the discussion. We want to thank our viewers. Keep your dial set here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberian. Whether you support Mr. Cummings or Mr. Weah or Mr. Boakai, or you even support me and want to draft me for presidency, it doesn't matter. We are all Liberians, and we must do whatever it takes to make our country that glorious land of liberty. Have a good day, and God bless you.
We are